Hi there. Today we're going to be making a slab formed cup. I'm going to be working on this board and so it doesn't slide around. I put a towel underneath it, so hopefully you have a place like that where you can work. I have some clay and we need to make a thin slab of that. Could use a rolling pin, but I'm going to kind of do it a little different way. I'm going to throwing this around kind of like pizza dough, right? Until I get the thickness I want. This technique works unless you stay on one place when it's soaking wet. Then your clay may stick. So I keep moving around, throwing it around. This is way more than we need, which is exactly what we want, right? And I have a template that I made based on the object we're going to wrap clay around, which is my soda can, okay? So we don't want to have to work with all this extra clay here. It's hard to move it around. I'm just using a needle tool. Slice it off. Don't have to be too fine at this stage. And always remember to save your scrap. This is really soft and I'm able to use this again for other projects. So keep that in plastic in your bucket, okay? And before I get rid of this, which I don't really need, I've got a little round dish here that is going to help me make my base. You might have a cap that would do it. I need a little extra, okay? So I'm gonna save that as well. Okay. If you leave your slab of clay on your work surface for a while before you get back to it, it'll probably stick. So once you've rolled this out, you're kind of on the clock and you'll need it. As you go forward and you make different projects, you might want to have sort of a library of templates like this that'll help you to make your projects pretty quicker. Now, and this guy's almost stuck there, but we got him off. And the next thing we want to do is we want to get this slab off of here. I'm just going to gently pick it up and put it down. And for the next stage, I have another board. Maybe you will have a piece of drywall like I have. Drywall's nice. I've taped the edges because we don't want the plaster inside to get in our clay. That would damage pots going forward. It's actually a catastrophe. So we have our can. If we just rolled a can on the clay, it would stick. So I'm using this paper towel, almost like a sock, so I can, if we get this off, when I'm done. Now you could use just about any kind of item for this. Soup cans were a little wide, so I chose, sort of the beer can, soda can. And I have my slab, and I'm going to just roll it down, right? Before I do that, there's something I want to do. I want to feather the edges, because when I overlap this clay slab on my object, if I don't, I'll have a piece of clay that's twice, 3 times the width of the rest of it. And it will cause that pot to warp. Won't be as nice. And so here I've got a knife, and I'm just going to freehand it. I put my thumb at the edge because it wanted to tear right at that edge there. Okay. And now let's see where we're going to roll this to. So my template was a little long, so I'm going to make a mark here. And then roll it back, and then I want to feather that edge as well. And to do that, I want to very carefully pick this up, put it down. If you're not careful, you'll warp this quite badly. Now, I'm going to flip that over again. And next step, we're going to score. A needle tool will do. Got this little tool. It's like 5 needle tools all at once. It goes a little quicker. I'm almost always forgetting how sharp it is and stabbing myself for no good reason. Don't do that. Now we'll go, I'll score that side, okay? You don't want to miss this step and accidentally stick it together because you might bust a seam and then you'll have a leaking cup. So I'm going to fold over the bottom of this paper towel. It's a little weird, but I think we'll be okay. And carefully get that started on your can. Sorry about blocking that. And then roll it over. I'm a little short. So I trimmed that a little too much. But no problem, we'll deal with that. And we have, before we go, we have our base. I like to put the base on while the can is still in the sock, if you will. And we're gonna do our scoring thing again. And then take your roller, or, yeah, you don't need to make the sound effect, but makes it stick better. Okay, so now we've got a little extra trim. Let's take that down a little bit. And I'm going through this pretty quick, but each of these steps can be done a little slower. Take your time. Neatness counts, although you wouldn't think so. I have this little roller here. I guess it's a pony roller. It's used for wallpaper, and it's very handy for joining bases onto their sides. Now because I've got that can still in there, I can put some pressure on this without warping or damaging the roundness of our piece. Now you can see I've got a little line there, and I'm okay with that. That's just going to be a decorative line that whoever uses this will wonder what the heck that's all about. But if you don't like it, then you probably will take a rib and smooth that out. And in fact, we probably want a little bit of a cup here for our base. And I'm going to flip it over one more time. And that give me a little bump there. I'm okay with that. Now, before we move on, just take your little tool and scratch this, because we're going to want to run either a sponge or a chamois over that edge and make that a whole lot nicer, so that someone doesn't mind putting their lips there. You don't want to give your customers a bloody lip. Okay, and now we'll pull this out. Okay, discard our paper. And before we go onto the handle part, you are going to want to make a little itty bitty coil. You don't want a humongous coil, because that's just going to add more weight. Also, before I forgot, this is pretty high for a cup, right? So on the one I did a little earlier, I trimmed him down, and I'll show you how to do that. And again, like something like this, make a little coil longer than you really need, so you don't come up short. And you're going to put that down in there. And then what you got to do is you're going to need a tool. I have little dowels for these various things, and it comes in handy because I can't get my fingers in there. But it's important to get that little coil in there around that inside join, because otherwise it could be another place for cracks and leakage. Yeah. So then you'll want to go over that and make that really smooth, okay? So here is one I did earlier. The base isn't hooked on yet, but I've cut it down. I was going to show you cutting it down, right? Maybe in your house, or where you have a Lazy Susan or something that spins, right? And I arbitrarily decided, hey, maybe 4 inches would be better than 5. So holding my arm with my elbow braced against my ribs, I can go all the way around, and I cut that off there. which I've done to this one. Now this is a 4-incher, and maybe you even want a 3.5-er. I want to preserve that roundness. And so now I'm going to just go around the lip. And this is an important step, so this will take a little bit. I've sort of softened the edge with my scratching tool so that I can change its contour. You don't want that right angle. When you go to glaze this, if you leave a sharp edge there, it'll be razor. Okay, my sponge just has a little bit of water, which you do not want to have so much water in your sponge that it drips down. And particularly, you don't want to get any water on the inside because that could start a crack. Okay, so we're going pretty good here. Now, if you don't have one of these handy dandy tools, if you will, you should maybe get one. This is a chamois from our favorite
goat
European animal, cheval. I think actually it's just from cows, but and the thing about it is it really gives you a nice rounded edge. And I'm putting a little pressure from the inside to the out when I'm doing this. If that just goes a little bit to the outside, that'll be good. When we get glaze on that, that's going to feel real, real nice, okay? Okay, so now we want to do a handle. So you're going to want to, I think if you made a little slab handle, that'd be easier. They're pathetic though. So we want a little better handle on that. It feels good, but you're going to have to practice it. And let's get yourself a little wad of clay, like a little baby tongue, some water, and you're going to pull, okay? I've got a little hand hold, and I'm trying to shape this. I want the tail to be narrower than the top of my handle. You do not want it to be really fat because the weight of this handle could warp your cup even when it's being fired, right? So hopefully you'll be able to make a little delicate handle. The first one I did is a little too small for the size of my cup, so let's see what's up. So now I've got my handle. I want to trim this at a 45. I'll take off that little squirt at the bottom, and this is very wet. So rather than put it on now, and also the cup is pretty wet, I'm just going to shape it into the shape that I think will be pleasing. And I'm going to set it aside to stiffen just a little bit, okay? And that may take an hour or so. This one, I did that too, made it a little, it's a little narrower. You can see the difference there. This would probably be nicer on my fingers, but this is nice and light. I think it's a style thing. You can decide how you want your handle, whether it be fat or skinny. Trim it up, right? And then we're going to use our little scratchy tool. And again, I'm going to, it's pretty firm right now, but it's soft enough that I can make it pliable. And yeah, let that cup go. Here it is. So another thing you're going to have to decide is where on the cup shape do you want your handle? Do you want it to be up here in the middle? And I've got my finger on the inside pushing out so I don't distort it. Get a finger down in there. And you kind of want a nice shape there, and you may want to make yourself a couple little teeny coils, and these last little cups parts just help to join that a little better on the bottom. And you're going to want to put a little one down in there. Finger on the inside, and I'm going to push in. Make sure it's right. Joined. So between making them and walking away and saying done, it's helpful to let them to stiffen up just a little. Everything moves on this right now whenever I touch it, and that's a good way to get a mangled cup. Okay, one more thing there. And so there's your cup. I'm going to want 4 of these, and I'm going to want them all similar, very similar. Okay, and there you go. Thank you very much. That's going to be your first project this quarter.